This matter was rife in 2016, where there were many cases from the Shembe Church that were reported to the Commission. According to the church, any member of the church is not allowed or is not supposed to cut their hair. It's either a young person or an old person. So in these cases, you find that a number of schools force learners who are coming from this church or who are members of the Shembe Church to cut their hairs. So the matter was reported to the Commission. The Commission intervened and they get involved with the department, where they spoke to the department and they issued a ruling that schools should allow everyone, should allow learners with their hairs as long as their hairs are neat and are combed. So all learners should be allowed. That has been going on since 2016. Even now, there are still cases that are still coming up where parents report that their children have been forced or have been cut their hairs by teachers at schools. So that matter has been investigated by the CRL, and they found cases that in some other parts of the province, especially here in KwaZulu-Natal, where the church is more dominant, they are even now getting the police involved. In some schools in northern KZN, in areas such as Mtuba, there are incidents when they called police to assist teachers to cut hairs of the learners, of which is a matter that the CRL thinks it needs to be criminally investigated. So they say they're going to lay criminal charges against those police and against those teachers who are still doing that. And they are saying that the department should be the one who instructs their teachers to follow to abide by the Constitution and to allow learners. Because in some cases, it's reported that there are learners who are even excluded, who are not allowed to attend school at all with their hairs.
Now, Thuba, we know you spoke to the Education Department. What did they have to say?
Yes, after the Commission is saying that the department is the one who's supposed to deal with its educators, as the Commission will not always be there. We spoke to the Department of Education, Muzi Mahlambi, who's the spokesperson in the province. This is what he had to say.
We always take action against a particular individual educator or a school, if it is a school. For instance, we are investigating a matter where in one of the schools we are told that educators called police to cut the hair of the learners. We are investigating as to what led to that and how did that happen and how did the police accede to such a request.
Thuba, and what about the children involved in this situation? Have we had the opportunity to speak to them or their families?
We have, even though we haven't been able to get them on camera, but we have spoken to a few of the parents of the learners who have been the victims of such conduct. And they are saying that the biggest worry is that you find that a learner is now even not keen to go to school anymore, because the way that their hairs get cut, it's not the proper way that you and me will go to a barber shop or to a salon to have your hairs cut. But they just cut your hair to force you to go and remove everything in your head. So it's not a proper way. It embarrasses you to other learners in some sort. So some learners, they even ended up not going to school or not keen to go to school if this has happened to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely ridiculous situation there. Thuba, before we let you go, how old are the children involved in this story?
It's usually the primary age-going schools. It's mostly happening in schools, in primary school, especially in schools in rural areas, of which the Commission is saying it's so surprised because it's where the church is more dominant, and those people are the ones who are supposed to be understanding more, to have more understanding of the church, but it's where it's happening. You'll find that in those schools that we regard as the model C schools, it's not happening because learners there are allowed to have their hairs, to have hairstyles on their hairs, as long as they are neat. But mostly it's in primary schools.